kind of just, again, in kind of informal. Again, not taking attendance or anything, but are there any questions that anybody has that I can specifically answer for anybody?
No, I'm not exactly. I still got to finish my essay, but like, I feel like it's kind of the easy part because I've already started it.
Starting, it's the hardest part.
It took me like 3 hours to start it. Like,
oh
right.
No, yeah, that can sometimes happen. Starting can be pretty tough, but once you start it, you keep on going. Because yeah, I extended it to the deadline to tonight just because I thought people would need a little bit more time. But I can't, and I'm not going to extend it any further because we need to kind of move on a little bit so we have a little bit more time to work on the next paper. Anybody else have? You can chat in the text box. You can talk on your microphone. I don't really care. Anybody else? I'm kind of here to address any concerns you might have. I can go over stuff on the schedule. Talk about anything specific. Is there anything any of you want me to talk about? Want me to go over? Anything you've been confused about going over in the past week? Peer review as the essay specifically. I figured the essay might be something that you'd want to talk about because it's due tonight and you've been working on it. So any questions about that or anything?
Not really. You do a good job, like, explaining what we could do better on the essay with your comments, which makes it really nice and easy to kind of like see what
I love Google Drive. I love Shared Drive. It's my favorite thing in the world when it comes to peer review or anything, because on the peer review you get to just kind of comment, and the comments kind of show for everybody. For my other college, they have Microsoft, so we just do the Blackboard. So you have to like download the essay and then comment on it and upload a new draft. So then you have to look at like 2 or 3 other people's files, and they all say something different, and it can get confusing, and you don't know whose is whose. And so this way, everybody's just kind of in the one, so you have just look at one file, and it's so easy. But I'm glad my comments helped for you, Chase. Were my comments helpful or confusing for anybody else? I mean, if somebody was confused about something, you can kind of like put it. I got a chat box over here in the right-hand corner. I think for you guys, you probably just want to hit like I know you probably can't see this right now, but if you hit like the chat button on it should be your upper right-hand corner, you can hit that little button and then send a message to everybody. So if you have a question about anything, or if there's anybody, or you can just say no if nobody has a question about anything. Does anybody have a question about peer review or comments they left?
Yeah, not exactly, because I kind of missed peer review. I got the dates mixed up, so.
Well, yeah, I tried to be clear about that in my comments, but I was kind of like I'm sending emails, so let's see. Hold on. Where did everything go? Everything went away. I'm trying to find out where everything is on my screen. Hold on. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to kind of share my entire screen with all of you so you can kind of see what I'm looking at. That's okay, Leah. I kind of figured you made a mistake. That's all right. So I'm glad you all find this okay. It's just really click on the button. What I've been doing, kind of show you guys what I've been doing. I've been trying to put announcements. So sometimes I just share the announcement as an email, and you all kind of get something like this. So this is the email I sent on Monday. And the reason I'm putting all of them as announcements is because I know I'm not the only one emailing you. I know you're probably getting like a bombardment of emails from the college, from your other teachers. We aren't getting any emails about what food's in the cafeteria anymore, so that's fun. But still, we're probably getting a lot of emails. So if you miss something, if you think you probably got an email from me, but it's like a day or two later and you can't find it, if it's something small, like I don't think I put the thing, I tried to put the thing where I extended the due date of the essay, but I didn't put the one about sending it to Wednesday. I think I was just really quick, like email, make sure everybody got it. But most of them are going to be up on here. So I have all of them going back to, Wednesday, March 25th, and that was the week before we came back from spring break. And so if you miss anything, I got Wednesday the 25th, I got Monday, March 30th. And so like here, this one, I got a bunch of videos about rhetoric and what that is. So if you were having a problem understanding that, you can kind of watch these. And so all the notices, if you have any problems searching for an email, you think you missed something, check here, the announcements page. It's just the one on top, and I'm just using that because I know everybody's getting a bombardment of emails from everybody. I try not to email too much. I'm going to I do this for my class that was originally online to begin with, but I'm going to email everybody on Monday for like this is what's going on this week. And so, check your email Monday, but if you forget to look at this, and I'll put the schedule, I'll copy and paste it directly from the syllabus. But if you, want to know more about what's going on this semester, I have this up here too. I don't know if I'll extend any other due dates. I'm kind of figuring things out as we go along. So if anything else needs to be changed, I'll kind of do that too. But you can kind of look on here. I got the docx and the PDF up here too. The paper's due tonight, so you can email me if you want to. I also said in an email that if you want to post it on Blackboard, you can do that too. So it can be either or. I guess not, you wouldn't submit it through both. But I'll check up here, and so if you just click on this is the essay number 2 assignment sheet and submission. So if something's wrong with your computer, where you're having trouble emailing, you can't attach it, something's going wrong, you can look on Blackboard. I had a student last week when they were submitting their papers, and for some reason, the email she was sending wouldn't go through to submit it, so she just did it on Blackboard. So, but yeah, you can, browse my computer, which I would normally do for an email anyway, and you just do that, or you can, I believe you can like browse cloud storage, which I've never done before, but I think you can. I don't know if it works, but that would just be, I think if you have a essay stored on like a Google Docs or something, you can, like, this is like everybody's essays that I had been looking at previously. I think you could download it from there, but I don't know if it works very well because I've never done it, but you can do that too. But don't think you have to do Blackboard. If you don't want to learn anything new, if it's annoying to say, oh my gosh, I got to do something else new, just email it to me. I'm going to be checking both. I'll just send grades back the way they got them. So if you submitted them through Blackboard, I'll grade it through Blackboard and send back. If you send it through email, I'll grade it, and then I'll send it back through email too. And I'll just put your grades on Blackboard as well. So there's that. Hold on. Okay. All right. Leah, you're on your phone. Okay, I've been checking back through the chat. Yeah, I've had to figure. You didn't really miss that much, Leah. You're fine. So there's the kind of like just submissions for essay number 2. Are there any other questions that anybody else has? No. No. Okay. One thing I saw, I'm just gonna kind of, I don't know, summarize. Oh no, it happened to Lee again. She got kicked off. One thing I saw in the peer review, this isn't for everybody, but I think it's really important, is the idea of like actually analyzing that rhetorical analysis. So not just the essay 3 will be the essay where you can kind of like pick an argument, not just out of nowhere, but form an argument about, something's going on in our world right now. But this essay isn't necessarily an argument about like a cultural problem, but an argument about the analysis of a news article. So breaking down so picking a news article. That's okay, Leah. I understand. You're fine. I get it. Technology's weird. I'm on my computer right now, but if I was on my phone, I'd be having a horrible time. I wouldn't be able to really do it. That's okay. And so I always do this weird. I always forget how I'm doing this. So the struggle is real, for real. I know. Technology. Me and technology, right? Or us and technology. No. I shared my screen with you all again. So I think I did this. Did I do this? So maybe I should send you all an email. I didn't put it on announcements. I guess I didn't. Okay, hold on. I think I might have sent these to somebody. I can email them to you all. I forget who I sent what to. So I guess this I sent to my online class, so it's fine. But one thing I saw in my online class, I say online class because they were originally online. Now everybody's online, so I'm trying to separate the two for my classes. But I'll send these videos to you if anybody finds them helpful. But in my online classes peer review that ended just the other day, I noticed that they were summarizing. They were kind of getting confused the difference between summarizing and analysis. And so I had some students who were summarizing a news article, and then in the peer review commentary, somebody would say, yes, they were analyzing when they were just summarizing. So there's a difference between summarizing and analyzing. I'll kind of send these videos. One of them uses Game of Thrones, if you like Game of Thrones. But difference between them being summary is just it's easier. You just say what it is, what's happening. Analyzing being breaking them down and you making a critique of that. So if you say, the news article is biased, that's a claim that you're making. You're critiquing that. It's biased. Then the audience would be, who is it biased towards? So if it's biased towards a specific audience, maybe a specific political leaning or something, how are they going to react? And then you have some sort of thesis if you kind of connect all this together. The article is biased towards Republicans or Democrats or I don't know, whoever the heck you're talking about, and therefore makes them feel alienated or whatever you're talking about. And then for the rest of the paper, you support that thesis. And this is that I think I may have sent you. Oh, I forget who I sent one to again. I should have put. I have so many emails. No, that's the same email. I thought I sent you all another email of another essay. Maybe I did that already. I thought I sent you all another email. Yes, I sent you all another example essay. So I guess I just forgot to put this, or maybe I just didn't put the attachment on the announcements page. But there's an example essay on Blackboard. We actually went over that in class, like probably the last class period we met. That seems like a year ago, even though it was probably more like a month ago. But this one, it's not the best in terms of paragraph formation. So look at the other essay if you need an example on paragraph formation. But this essay, I feel like, is a little bit more straightforward. So it's a little bit easier to figure out what the thesis is. They do a good job because they're analyzing an article that talks about Fortnite and how children are potentially addicted to Fortnite. And my student last year who wrote this paper was interested in it because she had a son who played Fortnite all the time. And so she had a struggle because at first she wanted to write about what the article was about, which was about Fortnite. So she wanted to make an argument herself about Fortnite, which isn't what you want to do. So your argument is not the same as the article. Your argument is critiquing the article. So for her, let me see if I can talk about. She'd spend some time kind of talking what the article is about, setting it up a little bit. And, she talks to credible physicians, which help a parent to trust the advice given. She also gets opinions from children. This can help parents understand what is so fascinating about the game and see it through the child's point of view. Having both the physician's and child's opinion can give a better look into what is healthy for the child and what needs to be worked on or taken away. This also helps parent understand what normal behavior is for the child is. And so, in a case, the parent specifically doesn't know what addiction to Fortnite looked like. because somebody can be addicted to a video game. But is this just, media hype, or is my child actually having an issue? And so she was kind of thinking about that. So notice her argument isn't Fortnite makes children addicted because, it's the article helps parents because. Okay, and so I think that's a very important line that can sometimes be crisscrossed. It's very hard to get our wires kind of thinking about this from a rhetorical perspective. How is this article persuading an audience? Because we're not trained to think like that. So it is harder to think, how is this article persuading an audience versus the easier route, which is what we're kind of more trained for, which is I'm going to make an argument Fortnite is addictive. And I'm like, okay, yes, it's addictive, but the article's already saying that. And so next paper, you'll get a chance to make arguments about, something else that's going on in the culture. But I had to kind of, I usually have to remind everybody several times of this. Unfortunately, we're not in the classroom right now, so I don't have as many chances to remind everybody of that. It's kind of harder. I usually have to, every class period say something about it. But we're not in the classroom, so that's that. But so I think I sent this April 5th, so just the other day. So if you want to look at that, you all have that email. This is the email I sent the deadline. So I think I probably thought I was sending it as a attached announcement, but I forgot. So I can put this on Blackboard too. I don't think I did, but I can put that, as another example if anybody wants to kind of look at this essay example, but it's there. So you have that one, and you have this one, which we went over in class. And then I have the rough draft example, which is unfinished. And then if you did peer review, you got the peer review examples, and, I have my comments on everybody's drafts. You have your comments from everybody else. And so if you're a peer review, you have those. But I comment on everybody's regardless if you're in peer review or not. So regardless, you have my commentary. If you need to talk to me one-on-one, I'm super happy to do that. So if you have questions, but something's so if you have questions, but it's not something you want to ask in a chat for the whole class, that's fine too. If you want to, just send me an email. I kind of really like this face-to-face virtual class meeting, I guess. But last week my other college had their paper due, and I know a few people, like 4 or 5 people, requested to have a face-to-face conference through Zoom. I guess we're using Zoom for that, but they found it very helpful. But it's not necessary. It doesn't have to be. But I don't know. Did you all find peer review helpful? Was that something that, for those of you who did it, was that helpful at all? Don't know if you're still there. Okay, cool. Yay. One person thought it was. Cool. Does anybody have issues with it or find it not helpful? You only saw my comment. Did you not see anybody else's? No, I didn't. Okay, hold on. I'm going to look at this real quick. I don't want to share my screen right now with everybody. But I'm going to look at your group. I have so many shared drives because I use it for peer review in all my online classes. Oh, that's the wrong one. I'm looking at. Hold on one second. I'm going to see if anybody else did comment on yours, Leah, because I'm wondering. Nobody got a chance to. Where is your comments? Where are you, Leah? There we go. Let's see here. Sometimes my computer takes a few seconds to load because it's old, but it works. Okay, so I think I might have been the only one to comment on the essay itself. Let's see. I'm going to look to see if anybody else kind of gave you feedback on the other thing. Hold on. That would have been... Okay, there's only... Here. Hold on a second. That's the wrong person. Where did everything go? There it is. Okay. Okay, so apparently nobody filled out the peer review sheets for any of yours, Leah. I was kind of checking back and looking at that. So peer review for future ones can be helpful. That's why I kind of like did make my comments on everybody's too. Usually for peer review, especially when it's online, I will give my comments. I wasn't necessarily commenting as much as or maybe in the same way that I would if it was a final draft, but kind of giving you feedback specifically so you can kind of think about revision. But also I know that it doesn't always work. It is your first time doing peer review like this. So I understand if something was confusing, if it didn't really make sense, if you kind of forgot about some deadlines or whatnot. And I want to kind of get your guys' opinion on this. I'm going to flip my screen again and kind of look at what's going forward, because I've been kind of playing things by ear going forward. I'll have some like these videos. These are a lot of videos to watch. So if you want to like space them out, coming up, I got them on their videos. The videos link or tab on Blackboard, but essay number 3 in a bibliography. This is talking about kind of like what argument is. And then extra credit video. If you don't want to do extra credit, don't do this. I already have it up on Blackboard on No Red Ink. But then this is like the final thing. I actually haven't made this video. I need to make that video. Probably I'm going to do that today or tomorrow. Going to be honest. But, I have, a few smaller assignments going forward. I think maybe typically like one, which is like read essay number 3 example. It's just kind of like write one paragraph. I just want to make sure you're all reading it and that you, not only did you read it, but that you understand, something about it. So don't, like if it's effective or not. Again, there's no such a thing as a perfect essay. But I'm going to ask you all a question, kind of what you think, because I'm going to have a peer review last week of class. You'll have like upload them, Monday morning. I might extend this to Thursday night. I don't know. That's May. We'll figure that out in the month. But I'll have a peer review last week, kind of before that final draft is due for that last paper. But I have this week here, and I originally had a second peer review, and then I changed it to conferences. And I'm going to let everybody else kind of chime in. So if anybody else who's not watching, who's not participating in the kind of like meeting live, is watching this and wants to ask me, we have a little bit of time for this. My idea is to do one of two things: to have a rough draft peer review, kind of make sure you all have like started something, or kind of schedule one-on-one conferences with me anytime during the week, not like 9 o'clock at night, but sometime reasonable during the week to kind of help you think about what this is. And so do you guys think that you would prefer to do the peer review, like a second rough draft peer review? Or do you guys think that like scheduling one-on-one conferences with me that week would be more helpful moving forward?
I think a one-on-one conference would be more helpful.
Okay, so I got one vote for conferences. What y'all think? So I got one vote for conferences. Because I was thinking like that, if we were in the classroom, I would do a peer review, but it would be like one day versus a full week. And I also know the realism of, like having a draft ready by then, especially with all this kind of craziness going on. I probably wouldn't have had a draft done by then. So if we have a one-on-one conference, it could be about paper if you had started it. We could also just be a check-in to make sure that you were okay, to make sure you have any questions without the whole class, make sure you don't. So is there anybody else who has a vote in the chat box? Do you guys want to, I don't know, or do you just not care? If you don't care. Okay, so Leah's voting for one-ish, kind of probably more leaning towards that direction, which is cool. Okay. Try to say peer review. I also there's only 9 people in the class, so what I also might do, and we have a few weeks to kind of think about this. I also might do is kind of give people an option. So if like I don't know, 3 people decided that they wanted to do peer review, I could put them in a group. If everybody else decided they weren't going to have a draft ready and wanted to conference with me, I could do that there. But it's going to be one or the other because I want us to kind of make sure you're checking in with me, that it doesn't have to be super stressful. That if you did a peer review, it wouldn't be a final draft. It would definitely be a rough draft to kind of figure out where you're going with this paper. So even if you had like a 1-page draft that didn't really have any clear direction, that would be the point of the peer review. But you can also always at any time, in lieu of like the night before a paper's due. So like tonight, if somebody emails me at 11:30 to look at their paper, I'm not going to be doing that. But I can read and comment on somebody's paper as well. So even if we do one-on-one conferences, and we don't do the peer review, you can always feel free to let me know if you need a paper to have me read. I can one-on-one conference with anybody during any time. But if you are like going a little bit, insane with this whole, something else is going on with this whole coronavirus business, if you don't think you're going to have a draft by then, that's okay. I don't want to feel anybody pressured like they have to have a draft ready weeks before the papers actually due. So if, just checking in 10, 15 minutes, not even, that if we don't have anything to talk about, just making sure you don't have any questions, that would be the alternative. So I might actually kind of give you guys a vote maybe like a week before. If we do do one-on-one conferences, what I'll do is like a week before that week, I'll send around a Google Docs kind of document so you all can kind of comment on when you want to meet. So if, Monday at 10 o'clock works for one person, but Tuesday at 5 works for another person, I'll schedule those both for those times. But what that will do, it will save automatically, and then somebody else will be able to see, oh, well, this slot has been taken. Therefore, I'm not going to say Tuesday at 5. I might say Tuesday at 5:30 or something. And then I can kind of do that. Because there's only a few of you guys. There's only 9 people in the class. So it's not like I'm going to be conferencing for the entire week. But it doesn't have to be Monday or Wednesday. It's just because our class times are scheduled there. Note that, if you all of a sudden have to work, that's fine. The world is different than it was a month ago when we last met or whenever that was. So, some of you might be working. Some of you might be have family members that are working and have to kind of help out other family members to compensate. So you might be doing something else. I don't know. But so if you now can't meet during the time period that you once had available, I understand. It's okay. You don't have to do this. But this time period seems to work because last week we had 2 people and now we have 4 people. So that's awesome. So I'll probably I'll make this a weekly thing, this kind of virtual office hours. So if anybody, so I'll keep this on Wednesday at 8:30 because it seems to kind of work really well, at least for some of you. If you feel like you need a time adjustment, if you want to make it 8 instead of 8:30, I can do that too. I feel like I'm talking a lot, but any other questions that any of you have? For me or for the paper or for the class, if you think something's not working, if you think something should be changed. I'm kind of playing this by ear. I'm here to help you all. So if something doesn't work, I can try and change it to make it work better. We're flexible. I don't want to change everything every week. I do kind of want to have some type of structure. But if something, doesn't work. Any other questions or anything? We don't have to talk for the full hour, but
I do have to get going because I have work at 10.
That's okay. Sure. But yeah, go
ahead. But thanks for the video conference. It does really help.
Cool. Yay. Okay. Well, Chase. So as a reminder, papers due tonight, and so just like email me any questions that you might have later on.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Cool. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Okay, I'm not ending the conference. We're just saying bye to Chase. So, so we got Alyssa, Leah, and Carly. Any questions from the three of you, or any things that you might you're not comfortable with or confused about? This kind of since we don't have an actual classroom session, kind of the point of these kind of virtual office hours, so y'all can kind of let me know if you're confused about anything or concerned about anything. Like I drank all my water already. It's already gone. So like instead of peer review, you mean? Or it's just for the final draft? So Leah said, can we share the essays with you and have comments like that? I love commenting on Google Drive, but it's just the difference if it's like just the format or it's just in lieu of peer review. Because I like peer review in general because it allows everyone to kind of see other examples, and also it's very much it increases that skill of being able to say, does this work? Okay, so because that's a hard skill to master, I guess, or even work on. Is this effective? So Leo, maybe both. Okay, so you can. So definitely, if you feel like tonight, that's a definite yes. Share your essays via Google Drive. Just send it to me via email. That's kind of one of the ways you've been sharing it with me, final drafts for essays and assignments beyond complex book entries throughout the semester. So that's a definite yes. If you, so in lieu of the peer review, I do want to have a final peer review, and I'll kind of share my screen again. And I guess this is where I kind of want to have a balance, okay, and talk kind of about what could work and what not work, so we don't have to do the same thing for every class period. So I do want to have a peer review for this last week before the final paper is due, because especially with the online class, I know that it can be kind of, you're out there in the abyss by yourself, kind of. You're not in a classroom with everybody else. So it can feel a little bit more like you have a class again. You have a community of people that you're working towards. It's not just me and you. There's still a class that we're doing. It's just we're all in our individual spaces. But also because I do, like I said just a minute ago, I do think it can be helpful to look at somebody else's paper and say, is there a thesis? Can I identify one? Because if you can identify somebody else's thesis, you're way more, or what argument they're making, you're way more likely to be able to identify if you have one your own by yourself and you're on your own paper. And that's one of the main goals with this class, is hopefully when you leave this class and you go on to other classes, you have a stronger ability of looking at your own work and assessing it. And that's a really hard skill to be able to say, here's my essay, I have a thesis. Because if you think you have one and then you don't, later on when you have a class that maybe has, so you're one of your teachers for another class that's not super writing based, they might not do peer review. They might need to do anything else. So really trying to be able to say, yes, I have one. And that's, again, a really hard skill to learn. So that's something that we're trying to kind of strive for kind of all semester. And so notice that I'll comment on these too. But what I'm thinking about is this week specifically, so week 15. So what we're at now, we're at Wednesday the 8th. So we have a little bit of time to kind of think about this week. So if that would be the week, what you could do if you wanted to not participate in a peer review, if you wanted to do the one-on-one conference, you could send me an essay ahead of time. So for example, say your conference with me was on a Wednesday. If you wanted to send me your essay by Monday, I could comment on that, and then during our one-on-one conference, I could give you way more specific feedback on that. And so I could also send it to you, talk to you over it, because I think there is something about that verbal communication versus just saying, be more specific here. If I can talk to you one-on-one through this video chat, I can kind of spitball, and what's really important about it is that I'm not just talking to a computer. I'm just saying I can have you feedback. So I can say, does this make sense? And then you say yes or no. And depending on what you're still confused on, I can slightly gear my feedback a different way. And I can describe something different ways. I can put it as an example that you might understand better. And so trying to give you the best possible feedback as I can. So there's lots of ways for us to kind of do this to make it the most effective. But so if you're wanting that commentary on this week, instead of peer review, you can send it, and then we can have a virtual conference on a certain day that week. And then going forward, what we've got is an anti-bibliography. So you'll kind of start thinking about the paper, kind of drafting it this week. Any questions? If you're confused about the anti-bibliography I got a video on that, but it's basically just thinking about your research for the paper. And then I'll comment on that. If you have any citations that are wrong, if you have anything else that's wrong, then we've got this down here. The peer review will be that week. I also got extra credit, so we got up to 30 points extra credit potentially coming forward. That's not due for a while. That's due, Sunday the 19th, but I got a video on Blackboard about that. And then if you go to, where are things? If you go to Blackboard under the assignments tab, you can get to the extra credit. I think a few people have already signed up for that, but you don't have to sign up to it to the 19th. But that's kind of due. There's 3 of them. There's 3 Sundays in a row. Don't have to do them if you don't want to do extra credit, if you don't want to, if you have too much going on. But they're up to 10 points each if you complete all of them. I think one's on, I already forgot what they're on. One's on, run-on sentences. One's on in-text citations. We've been talking about research all semester, but we haven't really talked about in-text citations. We've just been talking about, for the complex book entries, the works cited page citation. So that kind of is a refresher, but then also identifying vague words and phrases that just try to be more specific. So those are 3 different skills that I think everybody could work on, not just one person specifically, but I think could be helpful for everybody. So if you go on there, it takes some of the time. So it takes a few minutes. Sometimes it takes 15. It just depends on how technologically savvy you are, or sometimes it might take you a little bit longer to read a question. But those coming up too. So keep that in mind. But I might actually move this video to another week. I haven't made it yet, but these videos, there's a lot, so you can kind of read those throughout the week. Hold on, let me go back. I stopped sharing my. Okay, let me look at the chat room. Anybody else say? But does that make sense, Leah? Does that kind of does that seem plausible for you? I tend to talk a lot. Yeah, okay, cool. Because so basically I'm trying to find a balance between like what works for everybody, and then if something doesn't work for one person, maybe trying to find an alternative. And so, but the end goal is the same. The end goal is to help you with your paper. And so if unfortunately we don't have all the means in the world because we're not in the classroom, but we're doing the best we can. We've got tools. We got Google. I think Google is great. I love it way better than Microsoft. I'm very biased to that. I love Google. It's so much easier. So we got, the video chats. I have Google Hangouts. So it's just probably the same area around where you might find Google Meet. I have it on my phone, and that's just basically a chat forum that's secure. We use our Google or Jeffco Google passwords and whatever, same thing. So if you just have a quick question and it's not something that you think you should email for, you can send me a quick Google Hangout, or you can schedule a Google Hangout conversation with me. I don't care. I'm very flexible with this. As long as it's like a reasonable time of day, because I try to log off around like 5:30 or 6 o'clock and the rest of the day. Sometimes lately this week, I've been more of an evening person for some reason, but I'm not necessarily like emailing people back. I should just be grading on my own, kind of thinking about that. But yeah, if you want to, it's good. If you don't want to video chat, if that's something that you don't want to do, and email's too weird for you, it's too formal. Google Hangouts are really cool. There's just basically a chat forum, and we can do that as well if you have just a simple question. So basically what I'm trying to say is that at any time you all are sitting on your own and you're scratching your head and pulling your hair out and you're confused and you have no idea what's going on, let me know, because one of the biggest struggles that I've been having lately is this kind of helpless feeling of like, well, I guess everybody's okay, but they're probably not. But I don't know how I can help anybody if they don't let me know that they need help. And so that's been my biggest struggle, is that in the classroom, I can kind of sit down next to you and say, okay, tell me your issues. Tell me, not like life issues, but tell me what your problems are with your paper. And then that kind of sets off a conversation. But now I can't do that. And so I have to make sure that you all are okay. And that's what I liked about the peer review, is that it's still a check-in, kind of a reminder that this is, you still have a community here to help you. So, or if you kind of want to share your paper with somebody else in the class, get their information, you can do that too. Don't need me to do that either. Just separately, if that can help you too. But I want to help you guys. I want to be there to help you. Just let me know if you all have any questions. I don't want you to feel like you're alone. I don't want you to feel like you have to pull your hair out because you're stressed out and you're struggling. I want your hair to stay in. I want this. I know this is a really rough time. Nobody asked for this. I would much rather be in the classroom than do all this online stuff. And I know most of you probably feel the same way, if not all of you. And so, yeah, just let me know if you ever, I know it's hard. I know to ask for help, to say, yes, I want to be there. But sometimes all it takes is like a simple like email or something, and then I can kind of springboard off of that. Because if I know if somebody's struggling, like my other school, 2 people this past week told me they don't have access to computers on a regular basis. So I was able to tell the chair of my department that they don't have laptops and they're going to be able to loan them from the school. I just got an email yesterday from Jeffco's director. So if anybody has problems with technology and needs a computer, the library at Jeffco has a few available, so you might be able to loan them. So if you need any help with that, but I can't get you access to them if I don't know that you need a computer. And so if that's something that you need help with, I can kind of help you with that as well. I don't know how they distribute them, but I can send you in the right direction. I can have to give you your name to the right people so they can kind of contact you and give you access to the technology you need, because we're not on campus anymore. And so, yeah, and I get emailed updates from Jeffco all the time. I get that from, so if there's any information that I think could be helpful to all of you, I can kind of send it your way with technology or anything like that. I don't have to continue talking to 9:30, but any questions at all? Anything that you all need me to address in the next 2 minutes? Can I give you a minute if you're typing? Chatting is nice though. Oh yeah, totally is. It is. I think it's very important to remember other people are around, even if to hear somebody's voice, to see somebody's face. I think that's very important. To know that you're in a class, even though I'm not like. Okay, you think you're okay for now. All right. Anybody else have any questions? I don't want this to on Rover. Hopefully this was helpful in some way. Okay. I wish there was kind of like iPhones do. I wish there was a feature on this. I know this is Google, but I wish there was a feature on this where I could see if somebody was typing so that I didn't just shut somebody down. So if somebody had a last minute question, I can't see if anybody's typing. That's the one aspect of this. I take walks. Leah said I don't get out of the house, I'm gonna lose my mind. I've been taking walks every other day. I have like just like a little neighborhood where I can take like a 20-minute walk. I've been doing that every other day. Today I'm actually gonna go to Walmart. That's gonna be fun. I have to get some stuff. So let's see how that goes with going to Walmart. That's gonna be exciting. But I gotta do that today. I've been going to Aldi lately, but that's been okay. So we're gonna find out the struggle of Walmart. I don't know if anybody else has gone there, but I'm gonna venture into it. So yeah, I have a little smaller apartment. I don't have a house, so I kind of have to get out. Oh, well, I don't know about that. I don't help you with that one. I don't know. If you have a dog just walking around for an hour is an excuse to leave or something. Hey, Kaylee. Okay, I'm just about finished wrapping everything up. Kaylee,
I know, I'm late.
What's that?
I'm late, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Do you have any questions or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I've just I was just about to sign off. I'm glad you chimed in when you did. I've just kind of been asking everybody if they have questions or anything, addressing any issues. I've gone over a little bit of the essay too. I went over kind of peer review a little bit, if that was helpful or not. Just some reminders and refreshers or anything. Did you find peer review helpful?
I found it a little helpful, yeah. I wasn't really able to get too far into it. I had some issues with my daughter last night, so I kind of had to stop working on it.
Well, I was asking everybody, and I can kind of take a poll later, but in a few weeks, I'll probably do. So this week, kind of watching some videos, thinking about what essay 3 is. Next week, kind of getting caught up on that, reading an example essay. And the following week, I originally had scheduled a kind of like a rough draft peer review for the next paper, but I didn't think or know if everybody would actually have some piece of writing done. So would you prefer having like a second peer review for the essay 3, or having like one-on-one video conferences with me and scheduling those?
Probably one-on-one video conferences.
Okay. So I got another for that. So, and it's mixed. Some people are peer review, some people are conferences. So like I just said to the kind of conference earlier, what I might do is kind of, get people's opinions and see if it's a vote. And if I can find, 3 people who want to do a peer review, I might do that, and everybody else can conference with me. But if it's just one person, I can't do a peer review with one person. That's just not gonna work. So if we can find a few people, so if this goes to anybody again, so if you're watching this on a recording, if anybody needs to, wants to peer review with me, that week, and I'm talking about, not this week, not next week, but the week after. Again, me doing this video on April 8th. And so if anybody doesn't want to really peer review, that's for the rough draft peer review, potentially, let me know, and I can try and put you all together, set that up. But otherwise, what I might do is just kind of, or if 2 people want to do that, I might just do the one-on-one conferences, and you can kind of send that to me. But that would just be to make sure everybody's on the right track or anything like that. Do you have any questions on the essay due tonight, Kaylee, or anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Anybody have any? I keep asking this. I feel like I'm in the classroom. Like, anybody have any questions? And nobody says anything. That's okay. So I'm probably, I keep repeating myself. I feel like I keep repeating myself a lot, asking anybody questions. So what I'm probably going to do is just end this here. But the essay is due tonight, Wednesday, April 8th by 11:59 p.m. You can send this through email or Blackboard. So again, there's that assignments tab on Blackboard, and it's just the only one so far. I will change other assignments to that as well later on, but right now I've only changed the essay 2, so that will be for the final draft. If something happens for whatever reason, like an emergency comes up or whatever, let me know, and I can give you an extension to the next night. But I kind of want to, I'm trying to maintain some type of structure. I've kind of given a lot of extensions here because of the coronavirus and all this craziness. But if something happens, I've had students from my other school email me. I have a student who, is getting tested for coronavirus, and I'm like, you're good. So if like you're sick or something goes wrong, or like your work calls you and you have to like work a random 14-hour shift or something, you can't finish the paper, email me, let me know. I do want to kind of work with you all through all this crazy stuff going on. But if nothing happens, if you're just working on the paper, you have 3 days extension because of all this craziness for the whole class. So other than that, the whole class due date will be tonight. But one person emails me and they say, hey, I'm not feeling well. That's different. Okay. All right. I'm going to kind of go ahead and sign off. Any last minute questions from anybody? I'm going to see some. Okay. So I'm going to keep scheduling these. This seems really great. Overall, 5 out of 9 people signed in today. So I think this time period seems to work. So I'm going to schedule these every Wednesday from 8:30 to 9:30. And again, they're not mandatory, but if you want to chime in, if you have questions or just hear me talk about stuff, that's cool too. So yeah, I'm going to kind of say, I know it's a few minutes early, but I kind of feel like I'm just kind of running around in circles. Just like last time, what I'll do is I'll make a video of this and I'll have it, I'll send it to Jeffco and have it, I think, what is it called? Captioned. And so if you need those, I have it captioned. And then I put them on Blackboard in the videos tab. And so if you need to kind of look at those, rewatch those, you can do that as well. Okay, so I'm going to kind of sign off. It was good talking to everybody. And if I don't hear from you, I'll see you next week at 8:30. Okay?
All right.
Okay, cool. All right. Have a great day, everybody. I'll talk to you later.